one or gets the draw. That will be his third tournament victory in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. Magnus Carlsen has 2. Wesley So could be a record winner in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour if he wins this game or just draws it. So we have seen in many situations, actually, when players too much go for the draw, they lose the games. And Wesley having a lot of experience now, should we expect him to go for the win?
No, he knows how to go for the win. Yeah. We've seen it many, many times. He knows how to draw the position. He's a little bit like Magnus Carlsen. You know, they know how to steer the game into something that's better for them, where they're very comfortable. But, you know, you are right, 𝙬𝙬𝙬. There is a danger to just playing too solidly, taking those passive decisions. In fact, we saw Wesley make that mistake when he was facing Magnus Carlsen.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. But, you know, once bitten, twice shy. I fully would have expected Wesley to have learned from that experience. And, you know, it's okay, just play a normal game. Pretend as though this is just your usual classical game, not a classical rapid game. And, okay, oh, look at that. My prediction game is on point again. He opened with a queen's pawn.
Yeah, so the first time in this final, both yesterday and today, we saw him open with his king's pawn. We saw 1e4 in the first turn, not now in this must-draw situation, or minimum draw situation for Wesley. He goes to maybe a more solid approach. So will we see a Queen's Gambit? Will we see a 𝙤𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 Indian? We see, okay, Liem maybe not go for what we're used to seeing from him. He's going for a provocative approach in this must-win situation. He's gone for the Benko Gambit, giving up a pawn at an early stage. This is a rare guest at the very elite level these days. So Black is actually 2 pawns down temporarily after only 6 moves. After a couple of moves, he's given up all of his pawns on the left side of the board. He's recaptured 1 now, so only 1 pawn down for Black. But look at those open lines for the Black Rook. That's the compensation. That's what he's banking on. That's the big factor he's relying on to compensate for this 1 pawn deficit. And look at the White King, not castled. So White needs to spend a couple of moves repositioning that king. He does that. Black, meanwhile, castling away to safety. The White King now will just shuffle to the side. I'm predicting, and this is still well known. This is still mainline theory. Lots of top players have studied this type of position, played this type of position, but it's interesting from Liem. It's a new approach from him.
I haven't seen any games by Liem in this particular variation, so this must have come as a complete surprise to Wesley. But having said that, also, it seems like Wesley has also tried to get a surprise in, because Wesley, again, has no games in the database playing with the white pieces.
Yeah, this won't be a surprise to Liem, though. This is the most trendy way. This is the most popular way of playing against this pawn sacrifice, against this opening. Nearly every time I look at a Grandmaster game that features this, it's not often, but if a Grandmaster game features this, this tends to be what White does. White's actually, if you notice, he's traded off the light-squared bishops, so he's putting pawns on all the light squares, and this last pawn push reminds Liem that he is a pawn down. White has this extra pawn. This is also a trendy move. Black's rook shifting up, and actually next Black wants to put his queen in the corner. He wants to bring his queen across, line it up with the Black rook on this A line, and also the Black queen in the corner would be on the same diagonal as the White King.
Yeah, so the main move in my database, and it also makes a lot of sense, is actually to step forward with the White Queen, put her on the C2 square, and just to overprotect those pawns in the centre. If this were played, then, OK, well, he hasn't played that. Instead, he's actually made a different move, putting the Queen in the centre, and Black follows the traditional plan, puts her in the edge of the board. And Black's idea is actually to pressure those 2 white pawns that they have on the left, especially that A4 pawn. And the whole compensation is also based on the fact that Black's dark-squared bishop sitting there on G7 is an incredibly powerful piece. So if White can trade off dark-squared bishops, then Black will be in big trouble, actually.
Yep, so White, the long-term dream is to trade off those bishops. And also, White just has to keep control over the next few moves. It's not entirely simple. 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, you mentioned a couple of the ideas there. I just want to show a couple more maybe as well that Black can try and aim for to compensate for this pawn. And with his queen now in the corner, eyeing up the White King, if White is careless, if White just plays too slowly, for example, OK, just pushes a pawn, then Black has ideas Firstly, he'll probably put his rook on this line. As you mentioned, these two lines are well controlled by black. But if white continues to play slowly, then black will just crack open the centre. And if we see pawn trades in the centre, later on, the black queen is going to feel very happy on this diagonal. So, OK, Wesley first. He did something similar to this, actually. But first, he brought his rook up the board to a protected square. This rook nicely safe. And then when the black rook shifted, he's brought his own rook across. So this last move is important. White's rook sitting here. He's deterring black from opening up the centre, as I showed a moment ago. Now, if this happens, then after a trade, white's going to be far happier with his rook on an open line. So Wesley just trying to keep control. He's just saying to black, OK, I'm still a pawn up. It's still hard for you to break out. And black, if he thinks about it, has to maybe go for 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬 last point there, the last plan. This bishop is black's best piece, potentially, on a great diagonal, so you have to open it up. And after white brought the rook across, maybe you can step back with the black knight. This is, again, very thematic, very usual, typical type of plan here. You just want to increase this bishop's eye line, increase its scope, and suddenly there is real pressure. This knight as well could be headed towards the other side of the board later on.
Yeah, and incidentally, the move that you've just highlighted there, retreating the knight, is the move played in my database, and it's on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is standard stuff. Actually, I remember in 2014 when I was acting as a coach at the World Youth Championships, one of my students had pretty much exactly this type of position. I think just one small difference, but I remember studying it with him, and he was playing it from the black side, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm just a pawn down. I'm just a pawn down. I'm not so sure." And I said, "Why do you play the Benko Gambit if you're not happy to be a pawn down?" But it did work out quite well for him. And wow, OK, Wesley, so he's given back a pawn temporarily.
This is a new move. No one's ever done that one before, so...
What's the idea? Did Wesley just blunder pawn? He moved forward with the white knight, allowing the black rook to capture that pawn, and Wesley's smiling. He just blundered the pawn back, and now everything's great about the black position. Remember, black had good compensation even when he was a pawn down. Now with level material, suddenly the black rook, the black bishop, everything's working, and this looks great for black.
And totally, it was like some kind of... Mindfuck is the word I wanted to say. But, yeah, I mean, it just looks so odd just to give up the pawn just like that. I mean, I was contemplating ideas of developing the dark square bishop.
Did you see Wesley there? He's literally slapped his own face. He's so annoyed at himself. Suddenly, black is easily in control. All of black's pawns are actually connected. White has an isolated pawn on the B line.
Yeah.
That's going to be a huge target later on. Black's just going to bring his pieces to better squares. And, wow, we might well see a comeback now. White's position is in tatters now that he has no extra pawn. Yeah,
totally. I mean, one of the bad things about the white position is that take a look at those pawn structures there. The pawns in the middle of the board, I mean, they look great, but they're actually quite static because they can't move forward. And then you have the problem that black's pieces are so active. The rook is ready to pounce and move along the fourth row, just like we saw in the previous game. And if that's not bad enough, the rook coming to b4 will be backed up by a queen jumping along the b line to support that. And then the black knights, they are going to get active as well, and they're going to look at the d4 square.
Yeah, so also if we compare the bishops, you mentioned earlier, black's bishop is strong. Black's bishop is doing the attacking, it's attacking a pawn. White's bishop is forced to sit at home on the square at the start of the game, defending the pawn next to it. So White's bishop is terribly passive. Wesley does have one good piece. So Wesley planting his knight on this outpost, he's just hoping that that white knight will keep everything glued together, protect everything. But that white knight can be traded off at some point. Maybe black can play around that knight sitting there, defending pawns, controlling squares, but not necessarily threatening anything.
No.
So it's time, as you mentioned, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, for the black queen to get active.
And
there we go.
There she goes. And you mentioned this one good piece, but the next move that black will play will actually be to move the rook down to the fourth row and attack it.
Maybe, yes.
Maybe, you know.
It's one idea, at least.
That is definitely one idea. Another idea would be just to reroute the knights again. And I'm just looking at that knight that is sitting there pretty on c7. Kind of want to put it on d4, if I can. And, well, Wesley jumping forward with a dark squared bishop. And this is always an issue when it comes to playing the Benko with the black pieces. How do you defend against this pawn attack? Because, you know, if you step forward with your pawn to attack the bishop, then, okay, in this particular case, the bishop is attacking a pawn, but in principle, I mean, how do you react to this bishop move?
You know what I want to do? Okay, he doesn't actually react to it. I just want to make that point as well. You'd never, ever want to push your pawn forward attacking this bishop because you block your own piece here. So I was going to say, Ivanka, you know me, I like to get fruity with my king. So at some point, I would be tempted to just bring my king across and defend this pawn. But no, he counterattacks instead. So ignoring this pawn temporarily, ignoring the white bishop's attack against it, and going for your other idea, the one you mentioned, the black rook jumping forward and hitting this white knight and hitting it with the queen as well. Suddenly, maybe a bit of an issue for white to deal with. You never can move this knight. OK, he defends it. If you move this knight, suddenly the pawn falls. And not just the pawn, but everything across this second row is going to drop for white. So he defends the knight. It's hanging together by a thread, but you have to keep it on the square. He defends it with his rook. And now I would expect to see Liem take a timeout to defend this guy. You don't really want to trade bishops. Maybe this is OK, but you don't really want to trade bishops here. Black's bishop is so strong. You definitely don't want to block your bishop in by pushing a pawn. So I would expect this king move. But maybe there are options. Maybe Liem has more active ideas in mind.
Yeah.
But either way, it's the tension against this pawn that's pausing that's going to cause Black to kind of take a time out from his initiative.
Yes, and whilst there's a pause in the play, OK, the bishop steps forward. Surprising.
Surprising, but we should also mention that the third place playoff has seen a result. Artemiev has won and beaten Aronian.
Yeah, third place for Vladislav Artemiev. Second place in the previous tournament. Third place here. How impressed are you guys with the Russian?
I'm incredibly impressed.
Yeah.
I mean, yesterday I remember he was in a must-win situation in his final round. You know, and he did it. He managed to win, and it seems like that momentum has actually just carried on into day two. And, well, just taking a look at this position, I would, if I were white, I would just capture that bishop, no problems.
Yeah. So in general, long kind of deep strategy here. Getting the bishops off the board helps, but maybe then Black's knight will jump forward, and maybe the black knights are going to start attacking some pawns, and it's still very uncomfortable for white.
Yeah.
So I agree. I would just snap off those bishops, and I would say thank you. I really wanted to get those off the board, but still some huge problems for white long term, and it's because of the pawn islands, and especially white weak pawn on the b2 square.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I really was in a must-win situation, then I probably would pick up my h-pawn, move it 2 squares, and kind of say, hey, if you're going to trade off bishops, then maybe I can threaten something. Wishful thinking.
Yeah, maybe that's what Wesley will do. I don't see any immediate downside to that one either. Maybe white can just push a pawn, defend that bishop, and pass the question to black.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes as well, another point I want to make is that having space comes with upsides and downsides. Here, white's pawns are the furthest advanced in the center. White, especially the d5 pawn, that's super far advanced. But once pieces get traded off, the squares behind your advanced pawns become very, very weak. So that's why I kind of tried to coin this phrase, with great space comes great responsibility. And here, white has a lot of responsibility because he has this space. But controlling all the squares behind white's central pawns, it's going to be really difficult long term. Black's knights, once they finally do get active, are going to start creating some big threats.
And there's just no obvious targets to even attack for the white pieces. I mean, also, if you want to go forward, you kind of want to step forward with your e-pawn, but you can't do that because once the e-pawn marches forward, the d-pawn will fall. So definitely, it's only black who has the ability to put pressure. And I do have to tell you that for our quiz of the day, we're asking, in which Olympic sport would you have the best chance of winning a medal? And David T. Cramley, the co-founder of Chessable, answered, Olympic medal? None. Some of us would be happy to simply participate. Yeah. I may have a chance to represent Ecuador at the Olympics at snowboarding, given the lack of snow in Ecuador, thus lack of snowboarders. So, wow.
Cool. A man with many talents.
I know. And we might see David Cramley at the Olympics representing Ecuador. Wow. OK. And, well, happy days, because I've predicted a move.
No surprise.
Yeah. But, OK, I like this one because it was just a little bit less accommodating.
Yeah. So now black has this dilemma to deal with. Do you trade bishops? Do you take the bishops off the board? If black takes the white bishop now, white will capture with a pawn most likely, and there would be a semi-open line there on the h-file for white's rooks long term. So, yeah, maybe black initially hesitating to offer that trade of bishops. Now that he has gone for it, maybe he's regretting it. Maybe he's thinking, OK, that white pawn might even continue its journey up the board and act as a lever to open up the black king position. Yeah, nice move from Wesley. That's the type of move that's great in rapid chess, just multi-purpose, forcing your opponent to make a big decision, giving black a few choices here. Black can just move a knight, he can trade bishops, he can move the black queen, lots and lots of choice. He does move a knight in the end, but I was going to say, at least now, he has to have one eye on that king side. White may be aiming for an attack there later on in the game. So black's knight activating. Do you like it, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬? Is that black knight aiming for another square later on, or is that black knight just offside? The black rook, black knight, I don't really like their formation. It looks like they're trying to do something but not breaking through. And if the black rook and knight don't break through, maybe they're just not participating if the play shifts towards the other side of the board.
Yeah, difficult to say. I mean, I think the position is very tense. Wesley doing a good job of holding the position together. I still would capture that bishop, though.
Fair enough.
What would you do here, David?
At first, momentarily, I thought that the black rook was trapped. I thought white could drop his bishop back and attack it and try and trap that black rook, but it does have some safe squares, so I'm less attracted to that now. I'm not so sure. There's lots of tempting moves. The white rook can't move. Maybe the white queen, you can step into a different square. You predicted it again, though, 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬. The queens are off. I like that tweet as well. David and Magnus playing football at the Olympics.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It should be like a penalty competition in the Olympics. Only penalties.
Yeah, Gareth Southgate, you've got my number. Call me up.
OK, well, we do have a move. The queen has moved 2 squares to just, again, hold all those pieces on the light squares. And maybe on a very, very good day, there might even be some aggressive intentions of actually stepping forward with that e-pawn, moving it 1 square and creating some kind of chaos.
Yep, that white queen definitely hinting at some action on this line. I'm not sure that's going to be a threat for the next few moves, but it's in the back of Liem's mind now. That's another thing he has to be concerned about. I don't see any breakthrough for black. I'm slightly surprised the evaluation bar has gone so far over to black side because it just looks like manoeuvring position, both sides trying their ideas. But maybe white's a bit stuck. Maybe white's a bit frozen if black just slowly improves. Maybe black can step the king forward. I always want to do that if there's a pawn, if there's a square in front of the king. Maybe black can block the advance of white's h-pawn on this side. I never want to see that white pawn advance any further. A few choices. If there's no immediate breakthrough for white, black has the luxury of just taking a few timeouts to improve his pieces.
Yeah, the problem with pawn moves, though, David, is that every time you step a pawn forward, you concede some squares. So...
Take the squares, I don't care. Just stop white's pawn advancing forward. That's the only danger I ever see for black's king, is if white's pawns ever march forward. But
yeah, but I mean, you're right there. There is no clear-cut breakthrough for black. I mean, there's no way for him to increase the pressure on the b2 pawn. So, well, Liem actually following some of your advices from previous games. Step forward with a king.
No, it's well known, this type of idea. I mean, Karpov used to do it all the time. Kramnik does it all the time. Just if there's a weak square in front of your king, if your pawns are lined up like that with the 3 pawns, then step your king into the hole behind them. Control all the squares around your king. The king's also slightly closer to the centre if it ever becomes an endgame. If the knights, the queens, the rooks get traded, the black king's now ready to run in. The white king as well ready to run in. And both kings now super safe. So Liem, I like that move, taking a timeout, showing that he's not feeling the nerves in this huge situation, in this must-win game. He's happy to just take this time, slowly improve, and actually that's unpleasant for Wesley. Wesley wants black to kind of get overambitious, get impatient, get hasty, and actually initiate some action, because then it makes it clearer what white wants to do. But Liem says no. And OK, Wesley lifting his rook up there. Oof, that feels a bit shaky for white. Suddenly the rook and queen, if a black knight jumps into the middle of the board, would attack them both. It's not possible right now. White's knights are controlling squares, but tactically it feels loose for white.
Yeah, the pattern is certainly just jumping out at you. And, OK, we do have a move. Queen moves to b3. And my question is, if white just goes, I can't think of a plan, so I'm just going to pass. I'm going to move my rook back.
Yeah, I think that's quite likely. Maybe the idea, the black rook, I don't like where it's sitting right now. I really hate where the black rook's sitting, so I kind of want to bring it across one square and then drop it down to the second row and maybe add some pressure from that angle. The black rook, OK, it's putting pressure on the white knight, but it feels a bit blocked in, so maybe if he gets a couple of moves, he'll improve it.
OK.
That's the thing, as you mentioned, Jovanka, if white's just waiting, sitting, doing nothing, repeating, black has all the time in the world to go round and round and slowly probe and slowly create these threats.
Yes, that's true. That's true, and that's why I actually like your idea of just stepping forward with that pawn, the H pawn, move it 2 squares, because, OK, white could retreat the... OK.
So he's brought his knight to the side of the board.
And he's attacking the queen.
Attacking the queen, and he's hinting that that white knight might want to jump forward. It couldn't, though, because there was some pressure against white's central pawn on the 4th row. So that white knight needs to stay where it is, clogging up this 4th rank. And that's basically kind of a spin on what you were suggesting, Jovanka, that white cannot really do anything. So he just repeated the position there. He brought his knight forward, now retreating it. And he's hoping that black can't improve in the meantime.
Yes.
Wow. What do you think is the most likely result in this game right now? Looking at the clocks as well, Liem just looks very comfortable.
I think there's going to be 2 results. It's either going to be Liem winning or about 40% chance of there being a draw.
All right.
Yeah, Wesley's begging for the draw right now. I mean, it's just white is stuck, unable to move. So Liem, he's in the dream scenario. He's done everything right. He's ahead on the clock, great position on the board, sacrificing a pawn and then winning it back very easily in the opening. So the momentum's on his side, but the breakthrough, that's the problem. And sometimes actually in chess, you don't always want to do everything right, because then it's a little bit of pressure in the back of your mind. You're thinking, oh, I'm about to create a masterpiece. I have to be 100% accurate. You start overthinking, you start doubting yourself. And if there's no clear plan, if it's not kind of a like checkmate type of idea, then maneuvering, it's difficult to continue in that mindset, especially in a must-win situation. So perfect play by Liem so far, and I think I'm going to bet maybe that he's winning. He's going to win this game and take it to tie breaks, but yeah, he's still a long way from victory. So despite what the computer says, black still has a lot of hard work to do.
So what would be sort of going through your head if you were sitting in the black position now and looking at this and knowing the clock and the situation? What would you be telling yourself?
I'd be telling myself, just don't look at Wesley's camera, don't look at that yellow shirt, it's hypnotizing. But I'd also be telling myself, OK, you got this under control, just slowly improve, put my opponent under pressure, if possible, and continue playing quickly if that's possible as well. The one thing black doesn't want to do is drop low on the clock, because then maneuvering is really hard, actually, when you have no time. But
yeah, I kind of almost would be putting myself in white's shoes. I would be saying, what does white want to do? And then, OK, white has certain active ideas, which would involve, like, maybe, like David mentioned, actually pushing some pawns on the right side of the board. And so I would try to kill the game there. And then once I've done that, I would just focus on those small improvements. David kind of really mentioned one plan, which is actually getting the rook to the A2 square. If he can get there, then it will be complete control. And, well, the position would become very, very unpleasant. So...
OK, the black queen drops back.
This...
You're not a fan? I quite like it.
Well, I just didn't know. It was surprising to me because it's intelligent, let's put it that way.
You're surprised that Liem is intelligent? I mean,
No,
he's shown us.
No, I'm surprised by it because it's an intelligent move, that's what I'm saying.
OK.
Not because Liem is intelligent.
Sure.
But, I mean, I didn't anticipate it. I was just thinking,
so
there is a problem, fixed problem.
OK, there's a few ideas behind black's move. Firstly, the black queen was actually in the way of the black rook. Maybe the black rook later on wants to shift to the A line itself. But also the black queen is just keeping an eye on white's king. So still on this long diagonal, that's always preventing any pawn breaks for white. White's only active idea ever is to push a pawn in the centre of the board, and black shut that down, because if white ever pushes in the centre of the board, the black queen is on the same diagonal as the white king. So just a kind of just slow, steady move there from Liem. And again, with this last pawn push, just taking control over some squares. Personally, I would have pushed that pawn 2 squares forward, just to completely block it up. But Liem, he's just inching forward. He's saying to Wesley, you can't improve your position. I'm going to take all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Just build the tension.
And he's threatening ideas like pushing his king's pawn 1 square forward. at the right time, and just to undermine that stronghold that white has on d5, you know, because after all, take the stronghold, you take the castle. So I'm liking it. I'm liking this queen retreat. It's very flexible, and we've seen Liem. This is his one of his advantages.
And one thing I should say is Liem, his air quality, that is by far the best we've seen from him in the knockout stages. We've seen him with really high CO2 levels previously, and that must be why he's playing so well today. One of the reasons, at least. It's perfect air quality there.
Nice.
Yeah, he's definitely... I think yesterday his thinking was maybe a bit foggy. His first day in the final, a couple of big blunders, and we saw high CO2 levels. But today, none of that.
Yeah, taking action. I wonder what he's done. It was the CO2 level, so opening windows.
Opening window, that's good enough.
Yeah. Yep. Probably that is what he's done, Liem. He's had a fantastic day today. I mean, OK, so he lost one game, but he's played fantastic.
Yeah, the first two games he was phenomenal. The first game he was on fire. Second game he posed so many problems to Wesley that Wesley failed to convert a winning position. And he's done everything right, Liem. He just needs to take this game, this chance when it comes.
Yeah.
And it looks fantastic so far.
I have to say, Liem has also played some very sharp openings with the black pieces. So every time Wesley has tried to do his thing, lock the position down, Liem says no. And I've really liked the fact that he's chosen the Benko opening. And I was really surprised by Wesley's blunder, though.
Yeah, just a one-move thing, just forgot to protect his pawn. I've actually made that exact same blunder before myself in a simultaneous display that I gave a few years ago. I just moved my knight forward to that same square, forgot to protect my pawn, and suddenly the game turned. And talking of the game turning, this has taken a surprising turn, this game, because Wesley he's played the move that we thought was impossible. White stepping forward with his pawn there, initiating maximum chaos, but suddenly the black queen is really happy on this long diagonal. Can black not just grab a pawn now in the centre of the board? So the black knight is attacked. Either you can remove the pawn that is attacking it first, that looks decent as well, but you can maybe as well use the black knight to take a pawn. Maybe White's idea is to create some type of pin on this long diagonal.
Yeah, so White's idea is after pawn takes pawn, you're actually going to pick up the knight that's next to the king, and that is going to be the pawn. OK, so we can show it there on the board. OK, but we have a different move. So knight takes pawn on the board.
Defended by its queen.
Defended by its queen, but OK. So the first question is, you can either step forward with the queen to the e4 square, or alternatively, you can play pawn takes pawn. Any other forcing moves on the board? I
just want to show what the reply would be here, because I think it's quite a cool one. Black would actually drop his knight in with a check, discovered attack against the white queen, and a check, so the white queen has to step back, take this knight, and then you take white's knight, and you're just a clear pawn up with black. But instead, Wesley, he must have spotted this, because in the position, he's taken this pawn, and now... Lots of choice here for Liem. You could just recapture this pawn with your knight. For example, just step back, take this pawn. I think you're just going to be a pawn up for free as black, to be honest. Or, if you want to be super fruity... OK, he doesn't. I was going to say you can jump forward with your knight and create some threats against the white queen, knight, and try and utilise this queen in the corner. But
OK, in this position, though, David, what happens after knight takes pawn? Yeah,
this is why I was surprised by this. OK, and we see... Wesley has one move here to balance up the game, and that is actually to temporarily sacrifice this knight. Jovanka called it. He's done it. Knight takes pawn, and the whole idea is after the black knight recaptures, black's a knight up temporarily, but queen check hits the king and hits both knights at the same time, and you win one of the knights back, and you're going to make the draw. OK, let's go back to the players' cameras, because this is about to happen on the board. Liem, he must have missed this.
Yeah, he must have missed knight takes pawn, because it is a little bit surprising. And it's, in your mind, somehow you think, yeah, it's not a problem, because the black knight can actually step from d5 and go back to f6 to block any potential check. And you just forget that your other knight is on the d6 square. But OK, I mean, I still think it's not that easy, though, for white. I don't think white has entirely equalised, because the black queen on a8 is still putting the white knight on f3 in an unpleasant pin.
The problem is I don't think you can up the pressure. Everything's just going to get hoovered off. What can black even play now? If black takes the white knight, the white queen steps up, check. It's going to take one of the knights. I don't see how to even create any action there for black.
Yeah, I mean, can you just... Okay,
You've lost all stability in the centre.
Right, that's true. Blunders happen like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, maybe we can bring up the analysis board where the position is so critical. So knight takes knight is what I'm thinking.
And knight takes knight, and OK, I'll give a check.
You give a check, and now I'm going to retreat my own knight.
OK, but Ivanka, careful. Rook takes.
Oh, no.
Suddenly white is winning. Suddenly,
oh, no.
Suddenly, you were talking about this diagonal, but actually it's this diagonal which is...
Oh, dear, David. Let's move along now.
But actually it's important because actually if black takes the knight, which is the most important move here, I think actually white has a big advantage after a check.
OK.
White is doing great. So what black has to find, and the risk he has to take if he wants to win this game, remember, a draw isn't good enough, he has to ignore the temptation of this piece and drop his knight into the centre of the board.
Wow.
And look at these knights now, this like pretty pattern here, the three knights
in the stable.
In the stable. Oh, I can't even highlight here. It's so dramatic. But the whole point is you're hoping that white takes off this black knight because now you'll drop your knight into the position. Check. And that's a discovered check. Oh, me and my arrows again. That's a discovered check and actually a double check. The queen is attacking the king and the knight is attacking the king. When the king moves, checkmate. And this would be a real shock, a real surprise to Wesley. So this move, it has to be played. Bring your knight into the centre and hope. I think Wesley's only move here is actually to bring his queen to challenge this diagonal against the black queen. And maybe he can give a check first, but this move should secure the draw for Wesley.
Yeah. Wow, tense stuff happening. And even then, that's not so clear. So the knight now jumps into the square that you showed us. And one move for Wesley to survive is just to step forward with the queen 2 squares. And that's a little bit unnatural, I would say, just because it's kind of in the eye line of the black rook. Yep. But, you know, needs must.
Yeah, it's the type of move that top players, usually they'll find. It looks unnatural, it looks counterintuitive, but if there's no concrete refutation that they can calculate out, then they'll just play it. So there's 2 moves white has to find here, I think, is that queen move, lifting up 2 squares, but also maybe you can give a check with the white queen, as we showed in a previous variation. I think that looks OK as well. Maybe a bit more to work out there, though, because if you give check with the white queen, maybe the black knight can block that check, step back, and suddenly the black queen is unleashed. That's why I just want to put my queen in the centre and cover everything. Yeah,
I agree there, actually. So I think queen check is too risky, I think. So queen moving 2 squares is on the board, and now what to play for Wesley? Sorry, for Liem.
Yeah, and this is the issue. I think this last queen move, that's the key. That might clinch the tournament for Wesley. So this last move is 100% accurate, keeping everything defended, not letting any kind of fireworks happen against that white king, as in some of the variations I just showed. So you can't move the knight and kind of allow a queen trade on this diagonal. If you move the other knight, white's queen will just happily move out of the eye line of this black rook on the 4th row. I don't see any breakthrough here for Liem. And if there's nothing here in this one moment, then maybe there's nothing at all. If we see trades of knights, I think it's just going to head towards a draw.
Yeah, if we see a trade of knights, then everything will be eliminated. And there's just going to be no problem whatsoever for Wesley. So you don't want that. But you can't make a single move with one of your knights.
Yeah.
I mean, the only...
You don't really want to move the black rook either. Exactly.
The black rook is nicely placed. And unfortunately...
Can't move the black queen either.
No. OK, we're struggling for a good move from Liem.
We should clarify, we see a few decent moves, but all of them lead to simplifications, right?
Yeah.
Just allow Wesley the time to trade off some pieces. And yeah, it's really important as well that the white queen is actually defended where she sits by one of the white knights. So there are tactics here, the tricks here aren't quite working for Liem, as far as I can tell, at least. Yeah, suddenly it's actually hard for black to play.
OK, I just peeked, and the computer has a suggestion. It says, move the queen 2 squares to attack the white knight.
OK, to sit next to the white knight, keep her on this diagonal. That's inviting some real complications.
It is inviting the complications, especially as its main recommendation after that is for white to pick up the knight and sacrifice itself for a pawn. So
Oh, okay. So the move the computer actually is advocating here is this move, the black queen attacking the white knight. But the reason I think this isn't human, isn't natural, is because white's knight can go and grab a pawn. And the whole idea is that if black's king takes the knight, whoops, that's a check and a fork, a double attack. The black queen would drop off next move. So I would be very surprised if Liem comes up with this one, if he brings his queen to this square. Because the queen is loose there. It's an easy target for white's knights. Maybe it's fine. Okay, he plays it.
Oh, my God. Wow. David.
He plays the most critical move. But now, will Wesley go for the other move you suggested, Ďovanka? Will he take this pawn? And suddenly white's playing for the win, but also risk is involved here because white's knight is a bit loose. Everything's actually undefended for white right now. The knight's undefended, the queen's undefended. Maybe he'll see some ghosts. It's very natural to get scared of a move like this when you only need a draw. But is there a safety first move instead of taking this pawn with white? Maybe. I don't see one, though, right now. I would be tempted to try and take this knight off the board, but again, you've got to calculate some lines here. I think this might be OK. Suddenly everything is hanging. There's still this tension with all the knights, all the captures, so much to calculate, and the players only have 3 minutes. So
yeah, exactly.
Liem, I think, has to bank on a time trouble blunder now for Wesley.
Yeah, that's a very tough kind of move, knight takes knight, because I can even see black playing queen takes knight, and then suddenly look at the pin that white is facing.
The problem is white could simplify things very easily there. After knight takes knight, queen takes, the white knight could jump out the way with a check, and all the knights would get eliminated.
Yeah.
So I think Wesley, I don't think he'll take that pawn next to the black king. Even if the computer says it's great, I think it's just too risky. I don't see what black does against it, but it just feels wrong, just instinctively. Why take that risk? Why put your pieces on undefended squares when there's maybe a safe option? And
well, it could also be that you just see the tactic and you're like, well, hey, pawn up, and you don't necessarily assess the resulting consequences.
No, true.
So, OK.
So those are the two moves we're maybe expecting. Knight takes pawn or knight takes knight.
Oh, what do you think, David? Let's do a bet.
I've learnt that I will lose this bet. I've learnt that when it comes to betting against you, Ďovanka, no chance. But I'll say knight takes knight. I think white will take that.
Knight takes knight. I think it's very tempting to capture the pawn. Even though there's a lot of danger in the position. I agree with you there. Probably
Wesley, the reason he's spending 2 minutes is because he's tempted. He's tempted to get greedy and capture that white, the pawn next to the black king. See? Why do I even bother betting against you, Ďovanka?
Yeah, well, OK. Well, now things are really heating up because, yes, Liem has lost a pawn, but there is now the potential to create a lot of chaos on the board. So
I'm trying to work out if there's a way to indirectly attack the white queen. I mean, the white queen feels so loose. She's eyed up by the black queen, eyed up by the black rook. But the two black knights, there's no way to jump them out of the path of those pieces to kind of get them out of the way without being taken.
Exactly. I mean, somehow white's pieces are perfectly positioned. Because, I mean, if you look at moves like knight takes knight, when white will simply just... you can step back and capture that knight, but also you can capture the knight that's sitting on d5.
Yeah, so white's queen just is the glue holding everything together, and maybe there's just no way to kind of unstick this position for black. Oof. Yeah, Wesley, that's a cool move, I must admit. Like, it's one of the first things he would spot. It's a capture after all, and that's what we always tell ourselves, checks, captures and threats. But going for that kind of capture, it's just so brave. It's so brave, and that courage might clinch things for him.
OK. And, OK, well, there is one consequence of that knight capturing the pawn, and that's that the queen is no longer defended. So can you... Is there any checks? That's our rule of thumb, isn't it?
Black's knight giving checks? Or...
Yeah, the black's knight can give check.
OK. Wherever the black knight gives check from,
the queen will capture, and then we're just looking at trades as well. So that's not a good...
No.
Yeah.
I think Liem is realising as well now. He's slightly shaking his head and dropping low on the clock. He's running out of chances. Wesley's defended this one perfectly, actually.
Yeah.
Ever since that small blunder where he allowed this knight takes pawn idea. Liem, I think that was his last remaining chance, and it's gone.
Yeah, well, he's defended very resourcefully, Wesley. OK, knight takes knight on the board. And I think the simplest is probably just to go queen takes knight on f3.
So the white queen, as you mentioned, it has a choice on that menu. It can take both of it can eat both of those knights, but either way, it should be fine. Like you say, just take that knight, the most active knight, off the board. Actually, that just kills the game instantly.
Yeah.
I don't see any fun there for black. And Wesley knows that there's no fun there for black. But just double-checking, just ensuring he doesn't let things slip like he did earlier today in game 2.
OK, so, I mean, could there be... No, there's not even any swanky moves. OK, so knight coming to give a check on f4, but OK, he gets captured, and now you see these huge trades on the position, and Wesley is the one with a pawn up in a rook and pawn ending.
This game is going to end any moment, I think. Yeah, white is a pawn up, only needs a draw. Yes, it's not a nice pawn, those double pawns on the F line, they're ugly, but black has zero winning chances.
And here we see Wesley is trying to initiate the exchanges that he needs to secure the tournament. So rook check, but the king will step, well, can step anywhere, right? It can step forwards and backwards.
Yeah, it can step forwards. Most likely you want to step forwards.
Yeah,
but
I kind of want to step forwards.
if you want to be safe, you can step back. And
Okay,
it
he does step
the centre.
forward. Rook takes pawn.
Everything's getting traded off
And now I think we're going to see the pass of the pawn push. OK, we see a check.
White's just going to give all the checks. And the problem is, if the black king runs towards that white rook, then the black pawns will drop. So white's just going to give check forever. We're about to find a winner for the tournament. And there we go. It's a draw. Wesley So wins the Chessable Masters.
It's over. The fantastic Wesley So winning his 3rd tournament in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. And his favourite, banana sweater. He does it. And there we have a smile from the champion, Wesley So. Wow.